What's up everybody, this is Nightwing2303 from kicksoncourt.com, and today we have the performance review on the Adidas Crazyquick. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it.
Traction is amazing, one of the best traction surfaces I've ever used. Cushion's not so great, especially in the forefoot, but the court feel is unmatched, and the amount of flexibility you get is just ridiculous. The pure motion in this is wicked. The materials are great, they last, and they can form around your foot without being too restrictive, and then there are synthetic overlays on top as well for additional durability and support. As far as lockdown is concerned, the midfoot lockdown was literally perfect. The heel had a little bit of room, but not to where it was going to really kind of promote an injury per se, so I felt that the overall fit and lockdown was near perfect. Alright guys, that takes care of the performance review on the Adidas Crazyquick. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to stay tuned to my site, kicksoncourt.com, for all your performance needs. So until next time guys, have a good one.
Just kidding. The traction plays just as good as it looks. This is incredible traction and it's everywhere. It is multi-directional and it basically covers you from any angle. As you can see here, wherever you're going to be moving, the traction will be with you and it will be with you always. So with the natural ability and flex and motion with the pure motion system, you are going to be compromising a little bit by giving up quite a bit of your cushion. The cushion in the heel is pretty decent. It feels like the Rose 3 in my opinion, maybe just a little bit thinner. Basically if you crash on the heel here, you're going to get impact absorption and you're going to get a slight bounce. This entire midsole is an EVA compression molded midsole, so there is a little bit of cushion in there. Now the forefoot itself is really thin. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see in between here. But basically the thickness is like just under a half an inch, and that's about how far you are off the ground, which is pretty much like nothing. That is good and bad. If you like cushion, then that's a bad thing for you, obviously. However, if you just want to be super low to the ground, you like quick moves and things like that, this is going to be that shoe for you. It's going to allow you to make these moves quicker without any hesitation because there's less between your foot and the floor, so you just have more of a natural kind of state. Your foot's not naturally meant to be in shoes, obviously, otherwise you'd be born with them, and that obviously doesn't happen. And so the way that this kind of mimics your foot and allows your foot to move in the way that it was meant to is basically exactly what your foot wants. So what I would recommend is that if you are a grounded type of player, not a high flyer, this would be a really great option for you. You might have to get used to it, or you can always just put in an extra insole. Either way, I personally didn't mind it too much. However, if you are a player that absolutely needs cushion, you have to have it. Either go with an insole or skip this shoe altogether. So the materials are basically a one-piece solid upper. It's called Tech Fit. It was previously used in their running line, and now they've been bringing it into their basketball shoe, starting with the Crazyquick. I personally love it. I think it's awesome. I would have never have thought to put it in a basketball shoe because it's basically spandex, and spandex and basketball don't really mix unless you're wearing it underneath your clothes like compression gear. But as far as like support for your foot, I don't think that that's like smart. However, they went and layered all of this synthetic all over the overlay, and this is basically support. It's kind of like Fuse but backwards. So I think it's really interesting. These layers right here, these three stripes on both sides, are slightly thicker and they are tied into the lacing system. So when you tie that up, it's going to like really lock down that midfoot area, which is perfect. So I think that this is a really cool fit. Or not fit, but really cool materials, which ended up giving you a very nice fit. So I can't really complain about it whatsoever. I thought the materials were really fantastic. As far as the overall fit, they do run true to size, and they run slightly snug, but that's mostly because of the Tech Fit upper. It's meant to really wrap around your foot. For those of you that don't like sprint frames, you still might not like this. However, it is the most forgiving sprint frame. It's very comparable to the Adidas Rose 3 and 3.5. In terms of lockdown, like I was saying, the synthetic overlay is pretty much providing you with most of that support for the upper material itself, and then once the midfoot is laced up, you're pretty much snug and kept into the footbed of the sprint frame. So your lockdown as far as this whole area here goes is pretty much perfect. Me personally, I couldn't achieve 100% heel lockdown. It wasn't a huge deal just because I'm used to wearing low tops, so basically from here down was perfect for me. However, I was able to slip my heel out just a little bit, so I can't give it a perfect score, but it is very close. As far as ventilation is concerned, the entire upper is Tech Fit, which is moisture wicking fabric. They use it in their runners, and they also use it in their apparel line, performance apparel. So as far as airflow goes, not too much airflow, but there is moisture wicking capabilities, and it is ventilated. It's allowing heat to escape, which is the main point of having ventilation. If it weren't for all of this fuse layer on top of it, it would have greater increase or an increased amount of ventilation. However, you would lose a lot of support, so that would probably not be something that would be a good idea, obviously. That is what they do with their runners, and as you can see here, they don't do that with their basketball line that features Tech Fit, which is a very smart idea. The overall support comes from the sprint frame itself. It's built just like the rest of them. It basically cups in your heel and it runs mostly throughout the bottom of the forefoot, or midfoot I should say, until the beginning of the forefoot where you need it to flex. So as long as you're kept into the sprint frame, everything is perfectly supported around the foot, which is great. That's basically the base and structure of the shoe. The rest of the support comes from that fit and that synthetic overlay, like I was saying, and then the lockdown. But then there are also additional support features, which is that natural pure motion tech. This is next generation pure motion. This keeps you really low to the ground, making you 100% stable, and makes all of your movements very, very natural and fluid. So a lot of times doctors usually tell you that if you were to play basketball or sports in general the way they used to be played, which was barefoot way back in the day, like talking about like Roman times, like that is pretty much where you would see a real big decrease in certain ankle injuries and foot injuries. However, certain sports you just can't play barefoot, basketball being one of them. This is basically as close as you can get. Just a quick recap. The traction was phenomenal. Give it a solid 10 out of 10. Really no complaints. There is a small break-in period with the rubber itself, but overall there's really nothing to complain about. It is a very pliable rubber, so if you want to use something like this outdoors, it's going to get ground down very quickly. It's very similar to the Rose 3 and the brain fart, and the Kobe 8. Being that the cushion is very minimal and just foam, it's going to work against players that do prefer or wish to have a lot of cushion. However, if you do not wish to have a lot of cushion, this is basically that option for you. Now, as far as an overall score goes for the cushion, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Basically, that's kind of a little bit above average. So it's not great, it's not horrible, could definitely be worse. And personally, I didn't find it to be an issue for me. However, the longer that I did play, I did have some shin splints and things like that, so that's where cushion kind of comes into play. But that's when I was playing over 3 hours, and that's not typical for an actual in-game setting. If you are a pickup player, though, you might want to consider something with some cushion. The overall materials I thought were fantastic. I love Tech Fit. I love it in the Adidas Energy Boost, the running sneaker, and I definitely like it here. I would like to see it with less synthetic overlays on top of it, but still maintain that support. So we'll see kind of how this evolves into their basketball footwear in the future. But as far as an overall score goes, I gave it a solid 9 out of 10. I thought that they fit perfect. I know that sprint frame is going to bother some people, so basically I took off a half a point for that. So an overall score of 9.5 out of 10. Again, just like the material section, the entire upper is Tech Fit, so ventilation is there. It's not quite as much airflow as one might want or maybe be used to in certain Adidas products, but it is definitely there. It would be a little bit better with all of these synthetic overlays again, but with that material you do need some support and structure, so it can't not be there. Basically, I gave the ventilation a solid 8 out of 10. As far as the support goes, you have that sprint frame, you have this new next-gen Pure Motion, very low to the ground type of feel, and that Tech Fit upper with the synthetic overlays keeping everything very snug and secure. Support is pretty much very solid, especially for this being a so-called minimal shoe. Basically, got a solid 9 out of 10. All of that came out to 8.83. Basically, going to round that up a little bit, and we're going to give the overall score a solid 9 out of 10. And if you wanted to see where that placed on the top 10 of 2013 list, you can head over to my site, kicksoncourt.com, for all of that type of stuff, including a full written review on these guys right here. Alright guys, so that pretty much takes care of the performance review on the Adidas Crazyquick. This probably is one of my favorite Adidas models on a personal level. Just to play in, I think that these are fantastic. I do wish that they had a little bit more cushion, but we'll see what they do with their Adidas Boost. That's basically their foam cushion, their new stuff, and that stuff is wicked awesome. So if they were able to implement that in something like this, I think that they'd have a certified killer as far as like the guard category goes. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. So until next time guys, have a good one. Ventilation isn't horrible, but it's not shit.